What's going on, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be talking about what's going on in the NFT market, some up and coming hot NFTs you definitely need to watch out for, as well as my trip to Tokyo, Japan. Now, before we go ahead and get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's go ahead and dive right in. So over the past week, low-key, I actually was spending the entire week in Tokyo, Japan, doing a little research on some things like anime, merchandise, and things of that nature. Now, I can't really share with you exactly what I was researching, but I can say that I definitely learned a lot about the space when it comes to NFTs in Japan, the figurines, merchandising sales, where's the money flowing when it comes to all these IP and things like that. And I actually brought back home some souvenirs. So some recent pickups I did was this Bear Brick, actually, which is a collaboration with Bear Brick and Evangelion, which actually makes some of the most interesting merchandise when it comes to anime merch. And I also picked up this, which is a Fate Grand Order figurine, Saber, if you are into that. And I know, and actually this figurine is actually very high quality. You know, when we're talking about NFTs and IP and all these things, you really need to understand where the money is flowing. So like if the anime industry is worth, you know, X amount of billion, 20 billion, going to like 60 billion in the next 10 years, well, where does that money actually come from? And so that's why I was in Japan doing research on exactly where that money was coming from, how people are making money, and how this actually relates into NFTs. And this actually also translates to not just anime, but like any other category where there is licensing involved. So yeah, so I highly recommend you not just look online when you're doing research, but actually go to the place that you want to study and really feel it, and you get an understanding of how things work. And one very interesting thing I've learned while being in Tokyo, Japan, is that anime is becoming even more mainstream. People think that, oh, like everyone in Japan loves anime. That's actually not the case. There are many people who don't really watch anime, even though it's everywhere, right? But what I've noticed is that compared to when I went to Japan, let's say like 6 years ago compared to now, definitely anime has become more mainstream. It's a lot more balanced when it comes to the male and female ratio, whereas before it was like more like weeby guys and nerdy guys, stuff like that. And now actually regular girls who are just like checking out their favorite anime like Detective Conan and stuff like that, they're everywhere nowadays. So there definitely is more of a balance of females getting into anime, and I think that trend is actually translating more and more into global audience, where even in America, anime is becoming more mainstream. So that was a very interesting learning lesson. The other thing is I was able to meet a lot of people who were coming for ETH Tokyo. So actually a Clone X community member, he recognized me on the streets of Shibuya when I was just walking around, shopping around, and he actually invited me to a dinner with a bunch of like NFT people. So I got to know quite a bit of people. So shout out to everybody that I met over at Tokyo over the past week. It was actually really good. Learned a lot and experienced a lot as well. Now, speaking of IP, let's go ahead and talk about an upcoming project. So there's this studio called Mythos Studios, quite a new studio. It's an IP entertainment studio. It was founded by the founding chairman of Marvel Studios, David Maisel. Now, some context for you guys. I actually met David the end of late 2022, and that was when he was actually showing me some of the things that he was working on for Mythos Studios. The new project that he's coming out with, or starting out with first, is going to be Ekos, which is their first Genesis collection. Now, I think the most important thing you have to understand about this project is who David is. Maybe a lot of people may not know his history. David is pretty much the founder of Marvel Studios, right? Which is actually a big deal because it was his idea to really build the Marvel universe and take all the different IPs and put it together in the world, which we kind of see as the Avengers, right? Because before this, Marvel basically had the comics and things like that, and they would license the movies and the toys and stuff like that to other people and collect revenue. The challenge with this is that when you're licensing your IP, like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and all these things to different people, they're going to make their own movie, and Marvel itself doesn't have control of how good the movie is going to be, and it's very difficult to get all the approvals to get all the superheroes in one movie. So he basically had an idea. He went to Marvel and pitched like, hey guys, how about Marvel start their own studios, which is Marvel Studios, and we will make our own movies. Okay, so now you have an understanding of who David is. Basically, his new project under Mythos Studios, their first project is going to be Ekos. Ekos is going to be a collection of 995 of these art pieces, right? So the first collection is kind of marketed in a way of like contemporary art, right? So when we look at Ekos, they basically have the original line art, and then they have different ways that they're going to color it. That's going to be their variations, right? So if you kind of look through, there's going to be different types where some of them are going to be like the full published colored version of the art. Some of them are going to be like gold, which is like very Web3, or like diamond. So there's different types of variations for this art, and the mechanics of how it's going to work is going to be kind of like a bidding mechanic. So first, you know, April 24th, which is the time of this recording, so you might see this a day later, people can deposit and buy early, and if you are the first 100 people, you're going to get some special NFTs on top of the one that you purchased. So from there, after the pre-sale, people can actually Dutch auction starting at 10 ETH and going down. And so if you're interested in that, definitely want to check it out. So I see with Mythos, it's it's kind of like, for me, when I look at it, it's kind of like the Web3 version of Marvel. How big can it be potentially when it comes to using the IP to create movies and stuff like that? You know, they never said they would do that, but my guess is they're interested in doing things with it because this is an IP. So I think people who want to purchase these Genesis art, it's kind of like saying like, hey, you know, you supported the project right in the beginning, you got the Genesis pieces. As they continue to build this brand, maybe they drop more NFT projects. It's kind of like getting the first Pokemon card, right? That's essentially how I see it. It's more like a collectible that could increase in value depending on what they do. One other thing to know is that back a couple years ago, actually, this was in 2021, before like the bull market really took off for NFTs, they did sell some of their Fathom art, which is the cover of the comic book cover, for like $100,000, right? You know, this is something that people are interested in. This is IP that's not necessarily, Michael Turner's like Fathom and Soulfire and stuff aren't super like popular. There definitely is a fan base for it, but you know, could it become popular, right? Could this style and everything become the next thing? You know, it's a possibility, but again, it's speculation. Now, moving into other news, VeeFriends is actually collaborating with Snoop Dogg on some kind of NFT track. I believe it's going to be an NFT, right? So it's going to be dropping on 4/28. So it's basically Snoop Dogg and Gary Vee are making a song. I mean, I watched the teaser video and stuff like that. I'm not sure if Gary Vee is actually going to rap or sing on this. So essentially, the mechanic is if you have a 2022 VCon ticket, which kind of isn't really worth anything because VCon already happens, then you can burn it in order to get the music NFT, and that's pretty much it. And if you do that, you know, there's different competitions where winners will get Gary Vee's Bored Ape and some other NFTs for free as well. If you definitely want to check out VeeFriends if you're interested in this collaboration with Snoop Dogg. Will it be worth anything? I don't know. We'll see. I think it's just an experiment to see what they can do with the VeeFriends IP in collaboration with Snoop Dogg. Now, in other news, so Indigo Hertz, which is the official web studio account for Adidas and Adidas Originals, I would just say like their Web3 department is launching a new collection inspired by Bored Apes, almost kind of like an official collaboration, right? So they kind of been writing like this Bored Ape thing for a while. Gonna be shoes, clothing, and stuff like that. Personally, for me, I think if you're a fan of Adidas and Bored Ape, yeah, it's definitely pretty cool. But I think that's pretty much it. It's like pretty cool. It's not really making a huge splash. I think it's kind of like in this niche audience of people that kind of want it. But I think for the right people who like Bored Ape and you like the colorway and you like Adidas, then it's cool. You know what I mean? It's just like a collaboration, just like how they do other collaborations. For me, I'm trying to figure out and learn, how is Adidas going to continue to build their Web3 department? Are they going to stay niche and just go for this, you know, narrow market, or can they do something that really makes a splash and gets all the attention on Indigo Hertz and this whole entire line that they're doing? So definitely watching to see what they do and how they do it. But for me, it's not like totally hitting the mark quite yet, but you could also argue that maybe the NFT market isn't like popping off right now, right? So I'm just following along. Now, the last piece of news that we have is one of the co-founders of Cool Cats is going to be leaving the company, which is interesting because there are a number of the original co-founders who went on to start their own projects and things like that. This person is definitely not the first one to do it. The challenge right now with Cool Cats, and this is just my observation outside looking in, right? I don't know anyone on the team or anything like that. Floor price is under 1 ETH, which is kind of low for what it was, right? Like everyone was like, oh, it's going to be the next Hello Kitty for Web3, right? And I think they're having trouble just hitting that Web3 mark, you know, doing things with the IP outside of NFTs and building that narrative, right? And I think what it really takes is someone who really understands like that degen culture and also somewhat of a cult leader, because having a cult leader actually is very important. We see like Punchy Penguins, for example, has like Luca Nets, right? Constantly on Twitter, constantly sharing things, and that does make a difference in people's confidence in wanting to hold the NFTs. It's just so interesting. Like for example, Shadow Wolves, which launched in April 2023, is a collection under Cool Cats, and it's like it was so under the radar and nobody really knew that. Only from doing research for this particular video is when I learned about Shadow Wolves, right? And it's like, you know, 53 ETH volume, right? So definitely the leadership there is not hitting the mark in capturing attention, because if you launch a new project and nobody knows about it, then there obviously is a huge problem. Now, with that said, it doesn't mean they can't turn it around. You know, another company can buy the project and like, you know, maybe do the right things and to bump it up, get more attention and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of curious to see where Cool Cats does end up. I think it is a brand that has potential. It's an OG brand, similar to how like Omniforce is an OG brand that got bought and now they're trying to bring it back alive and stuff like that. So there definitely is potential there, but just kind of missing the mark for me right now. I'm still rooting for them. I'm still rooting for everybody in Web3. I hope everyone succeeds, but I'm just giving my honest thoughts. And so with that said, that's everything we got to cover for this video, and now I'm going to see you in the next one.